Brought to you by Penguin.
Liverpool Daughter by Katie Flynn, read by Anne Dover. Prologue. Glasgow, 1923. Matron swiftly wrapped the baby in a towel before handing the tiny bundle to the waiting nurse. "You can take this one, Nurse Mackintosh." Nurse Mackintosh attempted to soothe the yowling baby by rocking her back and forth in her arms. She turned to leave the room, when a stab of conscience made her pause. She half-turned before Matron, who, having anticipated the nurse's actions, spoke abruptly. "I told you to take the baby away." Nurse Mackintosh gave a small, reluctant nod before hurrying through the doors. She knew she shouldn't question Matron, especially after their earlier conversation. "Your job is to assist me in delivering the baby, nothing more. What happens to it after it's born is none of your business. You were told when you started working here that you shouldn't allow yourself to get attached, and today's no different than any other." She wagged a warning finger as the nurse opened her mouth to object. "We're not here to judge." "This is a bit different," said Nurse Mackintosh defensively. "I'm only trying to do what's best." The matron held her hand up. "It's not up to us to decide what's best." Now Nurse Mackintosh gently placed the baby onto the scales, waited for the needle to settle, and made a note of the weight. She knew Matron was right. She knew, too, that having no children of her own, she was in no position to judge others. Taking the tape measure, she recorded the baby's length, noting as she did so that the baby's eyes appeared to have a hint of green deep within the blue. She took a jug and started to fill the bath with tepid water, when the door behind her burst open, startling her and causing some of the water to spill onto the floor. It was one of the midwives who worked on the ward. She was shaking her head reprovingly. "Haven't you bathed her yet?" Without waiting for a response, she jerked her head towards the door through which she'd entered. "The Quinns are waiting to leave." The nurse gawped at her. "Already? But she's only just been born. Surely her mother—" She spoke the last word with contempt. "Should at least be shown how to bathe and feed her. This is her first child, after all." Ignoring the question, the midwife handed over a brightly coloured patchwork blanket. "Her parents want her wrapped in this. You knew they wouldn't be staying. Their kind never do. It's something you'll get used to over time. She may be a first, but she won't be a last." Nurse Mackintosh continued to fill the bath. "I'm sorry, but I can't help feeling a sense of responsibility." The midwife relented a little. "I know, but there's plenty of folk come through these doors who aren't fit to look after a dog, let alone a baby. You have to do the best you can whilst they're under your care, but once they leave, you just have to forget they were ever here. Either that or spend the rest of your days worrying over something which you can't possibly control." She held the door open with one hand as she made to leave the room. "Do you want me to do the handover?" Nurse Mackintosh shook her head. "Like you say, it's something I've got to get used to. I'll be fine, I promise." The midwife nodded as she let the door swing shut behind her. The nurse gently sloshed the water over the small pink bundle, who, rather than scream her displeasure like some of them did, was gurgling with delight. "Someone's a water baby," she cooed. She scooped the baby girl out from the bath and onto a soft, clean towel, and gently patted her dry, then expertly pinned a nappy into place before swaddling her into the blanket. As she entered the waiting room, she glanced at the parents who were talking in earnest to one of the midwives. Sitting a short distance away was a large man whom the nurse had seen earlier that day. He had thick, bushy mutton chops, and his face wore the lines of a man who spent most of his life scowling. On his knees rested a long ebony cane with a large silver handle. Her shoulders tensed as the midwife beckoned her over.
"Sample complete. Ready to continue?